I'm Nikki and welcome to the Preppy Possum. Today I'm going to lead you step by step through a painting. Today we're going to paint a cactus. So let's start out by grabbing like a good drawing brush to like a number 4 and dry it off. And let's grab like a really light gray, because that'll be a good color to draw with. And we're just going to skip up just a smidge from the bottom of our canvas, so just like an inch, and throw you a little line that droops just a little bit for at least like 5 or 6 inches. This is a little bit smaller canvas. This is like a 10 by 20 instead of a 16 by 20 like I usually show y'all. So I would do it like at least 5 or 6 inches. We can always tweak it. And then we're just going to throw a little line up from both sides of that line. Don't worry about this too much though, because we're going to come back and like fill in the background and stuff, so you can slim up your pot if you need to. And then I would throw like a line on both sides, and you can kind of let them lean out just a smidge. And then for the lip of our pot, we're just going to let it like just kind of take it out just a little bit. So sling it over for just like a 1/4 of an inch, and then just back up for like an inch or so. And we'll just do that on both sides. But like I said, you can make your pot bigger or smaller. And if you get it too, big or small, we can come back with the background. And then just throw you a line that barely droops and just kind of connect the top left and top right. All right, so once we have that, while we have that light gray on our brush, let's go ahead and throw some of that like all through the edges of your pot. So don't worry about like which way your brush stroke goes too much right now. But just kind of get a little bit through the bottom, a little bit through the left-hand side, a little bit through the right. Okay, so we got a little bit of gray going on there. So let's go ahead and just kind of wipe off our extra and grab some bright white and just throw a bunch through the middle. So you can just load your brush, and I know it's kind of hard to see white on white, but we're just kind of getting some paint on there because we'll come back and I would kind of blend in the top line too. And then you can kind of blend the white in where it touches the gray. But don't worry about what these brush strokes look like, because we're going to throw a few layers on there to make it look good. All right, so we got our little layer on our pot. Let's go ahead and wipe that one off, just a smidge. And let's just go ahead and throw us like a few rocks in there for our cactus, like at the bottom of the cactus. So grab like some really light tan, and we're just gonna throw kind of like the little tops of a rock, so like a little half oval. And don't worry if you eat into your pot at all. Let's see, let's grab some dark gray and throw a few rocks with that too. We about have all of our little rocks at the bottom, but anywhere where you don't have any, you could just take like a little bit of that tan and kind of fill in between. And then we can come back and tweak these later. But just to get you one little layer going on. I think we got it pretty good and rocky. All right, so that's a good start to our little rocks. So now let's just wipe that one off. And let's grab a little bit of like really light greens. So some slimy limey green, some like Kelly green, and you can even have a little blue with it. So like a light blue with that to make it really light. And we're gonna start like the outline of our cactus. So y'all's can be different, you know how they always look different, but I'm gonna kind of start somewhere. I might even do it like a little off-centered. And start real skinny from the bottom, and then it's just gonna curve at the top. And then once you get that on there, just grab a lot of paint and just go ahead and throw you a little layer. We'll come back and get up next to it. So once we have that, go ahead and add like a couple more like that, but I would make sure you do like one long one, one short one or something. I'm gonna throw like a little baby one over here. And then maybe like a longer one up here. And I might do like a skinny one that leans up here at the top. All right, so now we kind of have that going on, which you could just leave it that one, but I had like two in mind just to, I don't know, make it a little more funky. So I'm gonna start this one kind of right from the same spot, just like it goes just a little behind it. And I'm gonna start out this one like a little bit skinnier, just so it's a little different. So kind of start it just left of where we started that other one. And then I'll go ahead and throw some like little pieces coming off of this. So I'm gonna throw like a little funky one up here at the top right. Then let's go ahead and throw us like a little bit bigger one over here. This is an arm workout, doing the cactus all the way up here at the top. But don't worry like what your lines look like too much, because when we get our background, we can kind of smooth anything out. But that's a good start to the plants. So then once you have that, let's go ahead and wipe it off and chunk it in the water. All right, so now let's get us a layer on the background since we have like the first part of our cactus. So grab like a number 8 size brush and dry it off, just because I think a huge brush might be too big for you to start out with. So like a number 6, number 8, and we're just gonna get all the big areas. So get like all the big areas of your background. Because you can use a little bit smaller brush if you want to get right up next to everything. I might use this brush or I might trade out to a smaller. We'll just see once we get all of the big areas covered. But just kind of get all your big areas first, and then we can swap out to a smaller brush to get up next to everything. Now that we got all the big spots, let's swap out. I might get like a little close, like anywhere where it's easy to get close. All the stuff in between though, I would just wait till you get a smaller one. And don't worry about your background being streaky, because we'll come back and throw another layer on there to kind of thicken it up. So we got up close to some stuff, so let's just wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, grab a yellow handle, or number 4, something like that, and grab some more blue, and now get all the way up next to everything. Just so you don't have any white left. Don't worry if you cover up like parts of your cactus or parts of your rocks, because we're going to come back and throw another layer on everything. All right, so now we have this whole layer through our background. So we'll just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water, let it dry for just a second. So now let's go ahead and thicken up our background again. So I would grab like a number 6 or 8, just like we did before, and kind of hit all your big areas again. We're gonna get our background good, so that way then it'll be all perfect to get our cactus good and our flowers good. Get up close to everything, so that way I won't have to get the small brush again. Since we're gonna go back over our cactuses anyway, it won't matter if I chop them off a little bit. But now once we have like another layer on our background, got a little chunky. Then go ahead and just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And now let's thicken up our pot a little bit. So let's start out by grabbing a teeny tiny brush and dry it off, and grab a little bit of dark gray with maybe even a teeny tiny bit of black. So mostly dark gray with just a little bit of black with like a tiny brush, so like a number 1. And right here where we have the top part of our pot, like where it kind of overlaps the rest, we're gonna throw a little line that droops just a little bit. So it just kind of mirrors the top. And don't worry if you get a little thick with that, because we are gonna come back and eat away at it. But just throw you like a little droopy line. And then once you have that, go ahead and wipe it off and chunk it in the water. And let's grab like a number 6 size brush is good. You could use a number 4, number 6, something like that, a good medium sized brush. And grab more of the really light gray. And let's go ahead and kind of thicken up our edges a little bit. So where we had it like at the top left and top right, kind of thicken that up. And then I would thicken it up like through the bottom left and the bottom right. And I'm going to throw a little bit of the light gray through the very bottom too. And that's how you can kind of smooth out that bottom edge if you need it to. And then grab some more kind of light gray and white together. And let's just kind of thicken up the whole middle of that top section of our pot. Just kind of lay it on there thick and go like horizontal streaks. And then once you have that thickened up, then we're going to do the same kind of thing through the bottom. And it's probably going to dry a little bit darker than it goes on, so don't worry if it looks a little light when you're putting that layer on there. That's a good layer on our pot, so let's go ahead and wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And let's grab like a number 4 and dry it off. And now we're just going to kind of thicken up our rocks. So the first layer looked pretty good, but I would just go back in there and throw like a second layer just so they're not quite as streaky. So I would still kind of use, you know, have a few of them a little bit different color. It's all right if you pick up a little bit of that background too. just try not to do like all the rocks right next to each other that are the same. So I'm trying to add a little bit of color. So we have some gray ones, some brown ones, some tan. All right, I can always come back and tweak them. All right, so we got another layer on our rocks. Then just kind of wipe that one off and rinse it out. All right, now let's just grab like a clean number 4 and grab some of the lighter greens with like some of the light blue again, and we're just gonna kind of thicken up the light parts of our cactus. And this time we're gonna add some darks too, but let's start with the lights. So like light green, slimy limey, like a Kelly green, and even some really light blue. And don't even worry if you like pull in a little bit of that background, because that's gonna make it look better. Let's go ahead and hit like this whole one on the right. Okay, so now we got kind of first layer on the really light parts. Let's darken it up just a tiny bit. So grab like a little bit of dark green with it. Ooh, I might have got a little too dark there. And we're just gonna kind of thicken up all of our little pieces on the left. So if yours is getting like too dark like mine, just kind of grab some more of the light green and kind of mix it in there with it. Just so we don't get too dark. All right, we got a good base layer. Oh, I forgot our little part up there. Got a good base layer through the big parts. So now let's just let that dry for just a second. So now let's go ahead and grab like a number 4 again and dry it off, and grab like some dark pink with even a little bit of red. So dark pink with a little bit of red. And we're gonna start our flowers. So like up here, up here somewhere, I'd go ahead and throw you like a bumpy little circle. It's like a bumpy edge. And you can make yours like bigger or smaller, but I'm just kind of getting a little layer of paint on there. So the red and pink, and just kind of throw you a layer. And then maybe skip over here to the right and throw you one kind of on the edge. And then up here at the top, I would throw like a little flower up there too. And then once you have that, go ahead and grab like a little bit of the lighter pinks. And then we're just gonna throw like a little bit of that. So just kind of load your brush with a lot of paint and be like real light and loosey-goosey. And we'll just kind of, and then we'll let that dry for a second, and then we'll come back and throw some more. And then while you have that same brush, kind of wipe it off and rinse it out. And let's just add a little bit more blue to like a few of these over here. So I would grab like a seafoam, like a bluish green with some of the light greens. And I'm just gonna throw like a little bit, just to get like a little blue tint. That's gonna kind of make it look more like light too, not quite as heavy. Because sometimes cactuses have that little sheen. And I would do the same thing like through these little parts. Add you like a little bit of light. Maybe this one too, and then you can like smooth out that edge. All right, now let's add this a little bit. Just trying to get a few little glares going on here so it's not flat. So through some of your pieces you want like a little bit of light and a little bit of dark, just so it's not quite as flat. Okay, I think we got it streaked up a little bit better. Okay, now we can go ahead, you can use that same brush, or you could use a teeny tiny brush, like a number 1. So you could use like a number 4 or number 1, depends on like how small you can get with a number 4. And just dry it off, and let's grab a little bit of like, kind of like a milk chocolate brown with even like a caramel color. And we're gonna do our little spikes. So doing those, just kind of barely touch. And you're just gonna skip around just so they're not like perfect. Because this is just kind of, we're just giving the impression. So you just kind of wanna barely bump. And make sure you don't bump like just through the middle. Make sure you have some on the edge too. But I would make sure you get like a few on the edge just because it kind of helps give it that 3D look. And then you just want to do the same thing through like all of our little pieces. So you're just going to keep hopping around. Throwing too many on the edge. I can kind of blend a few of those though if I got too crazy on that edge. And then like I'm gonna throw even a few up here through this little one. And then do the same thing through your one on the left here. And we're gonna come back and add a little bit of pink to it, but I'll definitely use like the teeny tiny brush for that because I just want it to barely show up. You just want it to barely be there. spiky little boogers we got here. But anywhere where you get like too big with your little bumps, don't worry, you can always just let it dry for a sec and come back and add just a smidge of green or something to make it not quite as crazy. But in just a few places on each one, or at least like one spot on each one of these, make sure you're kind of hanging off the edge. I feel like that's what kind of makes it. So once you have that, go ahead and wipe that one off, chunk it in the water, and let's grab a teeny tiny brush and dry it off. And we're gonna grab some dark pink with even a little bit of like fluorescent bubblegum pink. And we're gonna add just a little dab through like just a few of our brown ones. And when I'm doing this, I'm probably gonna do a few on each one, then kind of look back and see if I need to add more. So you don't wanna hit every one right away, just kind of hit a few with a little bit of pink, because you want it to just be like just enough. We're making ours a pretty cactus. I think that's probably a good start for the pink. So let's wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. But just grab so I'll let it dry for just a sec, and then grab like a number 4 again and dry it off and grab some yellow. And now throw like a little bit of yellow through like your 2 big flowers, like just through the middle, like just bump a little bit in there. So load your brush with a lot of paint and then just be real light. Then you can even grab just a tiny bit of red with the yellow. It's gonna make you like a little orange. And throw just a little bit of that. Might even add a little bit more red right where the yellow touches the rest of the flower. And then once you get that, so you got the yellow, then a little bit of yellow and red on the outside of that, then just wipe that one off and grab more of that red and dark pink together, so that like original color we used. And I'm gonna bump some of that around both of the centers. So for one thing, just to get it kind of thickened up. So just kind of bump it. And to make it messier if your center got like a little too perfect. All right, so now that we have our flowers a little bit more dry, let's go ahead and use like a number 4 and dry it off and grab some of the lighter pinks. And now we're gonna get like some really light pink through the edges. So I would grab mostly the baby pink and kind of throw you like a little bit of that. And then throw like so you got a little bit of really light through those edges. Throw like a little bit of light up here through this one too, just in a few places. And then grab some of the like 2 medium pinks together. So maybe like, well, some dark pink and some medium pink, just to kind of, and you can even throw like a few little wiggles, just kind of where the light touches the dark. All right, so now that we got that, our flowers are looking a little bit better. If the centers look too perfect, still kind of mess them up. Then just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And now, like on my original, I wrote bloom, but you can write like whatever you want. Or you can just leave it plain. Or you could write like a last name if you're hanging it in your house, that'd be cute. But just use the number 1 and dry it off and grab like a gray with a little bit of black again. And I'm just gonna do bloom again. And don't worry when you're doing this if you get like out of control, because we can come back and thin it up. So if any of your letters get too big, just have a little patience and let them dry, and then you can come back and slim them up. All right, so we have that on there. Let's go ahead and sign it. So use that same number 1 and just dry it off. Now we have a cactus. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check us out. We're on Cox Street in Asheboro. And be sure to check out our website, www.thepreppypossum.com.